breaking point. I thought this vacation would rekindle the spark between us, but instead, it became the breaking point of our marriage. My wife and I had been married for 10 years. Life in many ways was good. We were blessed with 2 beautiful children who brought us immense joy. Yet, over time, something imperceptible had shifted in our relationship. Like most parents, we became ensnared in the unending cycle of responsibilities, school drop-offs, work deadlines, doctor appointments, and all the other demands that come with raising a family. Our days blurred together, a relentless loop of obligations. Each morning, I would rise early to help the kids get ready for school while my wife managed breakfast. After work, we tag-teamed dinner, homework, and bedtime routines. By the time we collapsed into bed, exhaustion claimed us, leaving no energy for meaningful conversations or deeper connections. Even our weekends, once a sanctuary, became crammed with errands and children's activities. Somewhere amidst the chaos, we had lost us. It hadn't always been this way. In our dating years, we could talk for hours, laughing and savoring each other's company. But now, even when free time presented itself, we didn't know what to do with it. Conversations had been reduced to logistical discussions, bills, schedules, and who would chauffeur the kids to their next activity. Desperate to bridge the growing chasm, I proposed a vacation. A break from routine, just the 2 of us. No kids, no work. I envisioned romantic beach walks, candlelit dinners, and mornings spent reconnecting without interruptions. I believed this trip could remind us of the love that first brought us together. She agreed without hesitation. Perhaps she too felt the distance, or maybe she simply craved a change of scenery. Either way, we booked a tropical getaway, a reset for our marriage. A false dawn. The resort welcomed us with the warm embrace of a tropical morning. The sun cast a golden glow over the endless white sands, the crystalline waves shimmered under its light, and the laughter of carefree vacationers filled the air. For a fleeting moment, it felt like paradise. Our first day was dotted with joy. We strolled along the shoreline, waves lapping at our feet. She laughed, a musical sound I hadn't heard in weeks, when a tiny crab scurried across her toes. At dinner, under a sky painted in shades of orange and pink, we talked about how much we needed this break. For the first time in what felt like ages, we connected. But beneath the surface, the cracks persisted. She spent more time on her phone than I liked, scrolling through social media or texting friends. When I invited her to join me for a sunrise walk, she waved it off, saying she needed to catch up on sleep. These weren't monumental issues, but they stung. And in those rare, quiet moments when the beauty of our surroundings couldn't distract us, the distance between us became glaringly obvious. I'd catch her staring off into the horizon, her expression thoughtful, almost wistful. When I asked what she was thinking, she would dismiss it with a vague, "Nothing important." Still, I held on to hope. After all, wasn't this vacation meant to heal us? To reignite the love we once had? I convinced myself these moments of distance were merely residual from our hectic lives. Surely, the sunsets and the sea would mend what felt broken. But sometimes the cracks in a relationship don't just disappear, they deepen. The dance competition. One evening, the beach came alive in a kaleidoscope of sights and sounds. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a fiery orange glow over the ocean waves. The rhythmic beats of Afro-Caribbean music spilled from speakers, mingling with the crash of waves and bursts of laughter from a vibrant crowd gathered for the night's festivities. Vendors wove through the throng, their colorful carts brimming with tropical drinks and snacks, adding an extra layer of vibrancy to the atmosphere. At the heart of it all was a makeshift stage near the water, encircled by torches flickering in the balmy breeze. A lively announcer, microphone in hand, urged the crowd to cheer as he called for participants in the much-anticipated dance competition. The onlookers formed a semicircle, clapping, whistling, and encouraging volunteers to step forward. I stood among the crowd, scanning the scene, when my gaze landed on my wife. Her face was illuminated, not just by the torchlight, but by a spark of excitement I hadn't seen in years. It was the same radiance that had first captivated me all those years ago. For a moment I felt hope. Perhaps this was the turning point. But as the night unfolded, the truth became undeniable. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, the distance between two people becomes too vast to bridge. The dance that broke us. She had always loved to dance. It was one of the things I adored about her when we first met. The way she could lose herself in the rhythm, her laughter as free as the wind. Tonight was no different. Her eyes sparkled with an almost childlike excitement as she leaned toward me. "I want to join," she said, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. Before I could respond, she had already slipped off her sandals, weaving her way toward the makeshift stage. I stayed back, settling into my seat with a drink in hand, a small smile playing on my lips. This was typical of her, always drawn to the spotlight, thriving on the energy of a crowd. Part of me admired her boldness, the way she could embrace joy so effortlessly. But another part, the quieter side of me, preferred to watch from a distance. The announcer greeted her warmly, handing her a numbered sash to tie around her waist. The crowd roared their approval as she climbed onto the stage, her smile radiant under the flickering torchlight. I chuckled softly. This was her element, her escape. I was content to let her have her fun. And then he appeared. Her dance partner stepped forward, a young, charismatic local with an easy grin and a confident swagger. His sun-kissed skin and athletic build hinted at days spent surfing or playing sports under the tropical sun. He exuded charm with every movement, and it was clear he owned the dance floor before the music even began. He introduced himself with a graceful bow, and she giggled as she took his hand. From that moment, it was as though I had vanished. The dance begins. The music surged to life, a vibrant Afro-Caribbean beat that electrified the crowd. He twirled her effortlessly, his hands steady on her waist, her laughter ringing out like a melody of its own. She leaned into him, her body moving in sync with his, her face alight with joy. At first, I told myself it was just a dance. She deserved to enjoy herself. But as their movements grew more intimate, his hands lingering a moment too long, her smile softening in a way I hadn't seen in years, a knot began to tighten in my stomach. I clapped along with the crowd, my movements mechanical, my heart a heavy drumbeat in my chest. The cheerful music seemed to mock me, its lively tempo clashing with the storm brewing inside. Was it just the dance that unsettled me, or was it everything it represented? The years of silence, the nights spent scrolling on our phones instead of talking, the way she sought validation from anyone but me. The dance wasn't the problem, it was the symptom of something much deeper. The confrontation. When the music ended, the applause was deafening. They bowed together, exchanging smiles that felt far too intimate. Something inside me snapped. I walked up to her, my voice calm but strained. "Can we talk for a minute?" She frowned but followed me a few steps away from the crowd. The festive energy around us faded into the background as I turned to her, struggling to keep my frustration in check. "What are you doing out there?" I asked, my voice trembling. "This doesn't feel right. I think you should stop." Her expression shifted from confusion to defiance. "What's the big deal?" she snapped. "It's just a dance. We're on vacation. Can't I have a little fun?" I tried to explain how it made me feel, how her actions cut deeper than she realized. But she didn't seem to care. Her tone grew sharper. "We're married, but you don't own me. You're not going to tell me what to do." Her words struck like a slap. I wasn't trying to control her, I just wanted her to understand how much this was hurting me. But in that moment I realized she didn't care. This wasn't just about the dance. It was about us, about how disconnected we had become, how little she seemed to value what we once shared. I swallowed my pride, my voice barely above a whisper. "If you go back out there and dance with him again, you won't find me here when you come back." She laughed, a hollow, dismissive sound. Without another word, she turned and walked back toward the stage. The breaking point. The music started again, and I stood frozen on the edge of the beach, watching her spin and laugh with a man we barely knew. Each moment felt like a dagger, a painful reminder of how far we had drifted apart. For years, I had ignored the signs. The quiet dinners where words failed us, the nights spent in separate worlds, the moments where she seemed a million miles away even when sitting beside me. I convinced myself it was stress, exhaustion, anything but the truth. Now the truth stared me in the face, undeniable and devastating. I turned and walked back to the hotel. I didn't storm off, I didn't call out to her. What was the point? She hadn't even noticed I was gone. The empty room. The silence of our hotel room was deafening. It wasn't the peaceful quiet I had hoped to find on this trip, it was the kind of silence that amplified loneliness, that made the weight of everything unbearable. I started packing my things, my hands moving mechanically. I didn't have a plan, no destination in mind, no idea what came next. All I knew was that I couldn't stay. I couldn't watch her prioritize a fleeting moment with a stranger over the promises we had made to each other. As I zipped up my suitcase, the finality of it hit me. This wasn't just the end of a vacation. It was the end of us.